rooftops are sloping, and the windows are low, and only one is made to open. The baking oven sticks out of the wall like a great knob. An elder tree hangs over the picket fence, and beneath its branches, at the foot of the picket fence, is a pool of water, in which a few ducks are amusing themselves. There is a yard dog, too, who barks at all corners. In this farmhouse lived a peasant and his wife. They had very few possessions, and one they could not do without, which was a horse. The old peasant rode to town upon this horse, and his neighbors often borrowed it from him and paid for the loan of it by rendering services to the old couple. After a time, they thought it would be a good idea to sell the horse or exchange it for something which might be more useful to them. But what might this something be?
Old man, you'll know best. There's a fair in town. Go and exchange the horse or get a good price for it. Whatever you do will be right to me.
So the old couple gave a loving fist bump, and the old man set off for his journey to the fair. The sun shone brightly and with great heat. There wasn't a cloud to be seen in the sky. The road was very dusty, for a number of people, all going to the fair, were driving, riding, or walking upon it. Among the rest, along came a traveler, taking a cow to the fair. The cow was as beautiful a creature as any cow could be.
Say, that's a very good-looking cow. It could produce a lot of milk, and we could have it. If it dies, we could have lots of meat. Excuse me, the cow. I believe my horse is more valuable than that cow, but that cute cow could be more useful to me. Would you like to trade? Sure.
So the exchange was made. The peasant might have turned back, for he had done the business he had come to do, but having made up his mind to go to the fair, he decided to continue on, if only to have a look. So on he went with his cow. After a short time, he spotted a traveler with a sheep. It was a good fat sheep with a fine fleece on its back.
Say, that sheep has a lot of fleece on it. We could make a lot of clothes out of that, and we could also get milk from it as well. Excuse me, would you like to trade this cow for that sheep?
Well, that seems very fine.
The traveler with the sheep was quite ready, and the bargain was made quickly. The peasant continued on his way until he spotted a traveler who had just come from a field and was carrying a large goose under their arm.
Say, that goose is very fat. It has lots of meat, and we, have some roast goose. Excuse me, would you like to trade this sheep for that goose?
I'd love to.
So the exchange was made, and the peasant continued on his way to the fair. By this time, he was nearing the toll keeper at the edge of town. Near the toll booth, he spotted a chicken, strutting about with a string tied to its leg.
Excuse me, do you happen to know who owns that fowl?
Well, I own this fowl.
That is a very fine fowl you have. Would you like to trade this very fat goose for that fowl?
So they made the trade. The toll keeper kept the goose, and the man carried off the chicken. Now he had really done a great deal of business on his way to the fair, and he was hot and tired. He wanted something to eat and a glass of ale to refresh him. So he turned toward an inn. Just before he was about to enter, out came the innkeeper with his assistant.
Go!
Wait, actually, don't let me
It was your fault those apples turned all shriveled and rotten.
tell you.
You were supposed to tell me what?
What happens to be in that bag?
Rotten apples.
Well, what are they being used for?
She's got to go feed them to the pigs. That's the only thing we can do with them now.
Well, I think that's a waste. In fact, last year, our apple tree only produced one apple, and we held on to that apple for as long as possible because it was our property.
No.
And that bag is a Sackville property. In fact, would you like to trade this fowl for that sack of rotten apples?
Well, with great pleasure. I can see that one in the pot tonight. Chicken soup coming up. All right, girl, go do that get that chicken ready for the pot, and don't make any mistakes this time. Let's go. Don't you huff at me, lady.
So the man gave up the fowl and received the apples and carried them into the inn. He leaned the sack carefully against the stove and then went to the table. But the fireplace was hot, and he had not thought of that. Seated in the inn were two Englishmen. The Englishmen were so rich, their pockets quite bulged and seemed ready to burst. The apples were beginning to roast by the fire and began to hiss.
Julia, man, what's that sound?
Those were rotten apples.
What apples?
Yeah, rotten apples. Why are you carrying those around?
because of the cow, and I traded the horse for the cow. And then I traded the cow for a goose, and then I traded the goose for the tollkeeper's fowl. Then, as I got here, I traded the fowl for the sack of rotten apples.
Oh, yeah, baby, you're gonna get a noise when you get home.
I thought so. She will simply give me a fist bump and say, what the old man does is always right.
Yeah, baby, I wager you 100 gold coins that won't happen.
I'm afraid I can only bet a bushel of apples against that, but I'll throw myself my life in to raise the wager.
We'll take that,
You
Bess.
got it, baby.
So the old man and the Englishman took off on the journey back to the old farmhouse.
Good evening, old woman.
Good evening, old man. How did the exchange go?
Well, I traded the horse for a cow.
Wonderful. We'll have fresh butter and milk and cheese on the table.
Then I traded the cow for a sheep.
Better still, we can shave it and then wind its wool into yarn and make stockings and jackets.
But then I traded the sheep for a goose.
Even better, we can tie a ribbon around its leg and fatten it up and have roast goose this season.
But then I traded the goose for a fowl.
Excellent. It'll lay eggs and hatch chicks, and soon we'll have a whole yard of chickens.
But then I traded the fowl for the sack of rotten apples.
What? I must really give you a fist bump for that. See, my old man, earlier I was trying to make you a nice dinner. Eggs and bacon and some sweet herbs. But I didn't have the herbs. So I went over to the schoolmaster's house and asked for her some herbs, but she said, my lady, my garden will not even grow a shriveled apple. And now I have a whole sack full of shriveled apples to lend her. It makes me laugh to think about it.
Yeah, baby, I like this. Always going down the hill, but always merry.
Fine looking lady up there. Nice to see that.
Does she have a sister?
So the Englishman paid their gold to the man, who whatever he did was never scolded, but instead lovingly fist bumped, because
What
What the old man